Anytime. Hi, welcome to the 13th floor. I'm Marty Duda, and today we have with us Sophie Mashlan. Welcome, Sophie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You were here earlier, a few months ago, and you were kind of here opening for a house concert.
Yeah,
and we were all blown away by you. We never heard of you before, so we had to get you back. It was excellent. So we're glad that you can make it. Now you have an album out.
Yeah.
It's called Perfect Disaster.
Yeah,
it's just out a couple of days ago.
Tuesday, yeah, a couple of days ago. Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah.
And you said you were on the charts?
Yeah, literally today I just got this notification. It's like your song is on, like, your album, is like number 18 on the New Zealand top 20 albums charts, and I'm like, oh my god, like I only sold like a handful of them, like,
oh, well.
you know.
Take it while you can.
I wasn't expecting it. That's really exciting.
It's pretty cool, yeah. And you had a album release show at Anthology.
I did, yeah.
And that went well, did it?
That one on Tuesday, yeah, that went really well as well. There were some really cool people there, and everyone seemed to enjoy it, which was super cool. I've never really played with a band before, like in like a public, like I've done it like with the uni and stuff, but like I've never done like a show, like a proper show with a band. So it was really, really cool.
So that was your first one with the band?
That was my first one with a band, and it worked really well, and it was really fun. So yeah.
And so now you brought them here.
Now I brought them here.
So why don't you tell everybody who they are, so we don't have to.
Yeah, sure. My bass guitarist is Juan, my drummer is Sam, and my lead guitarist is Luan.
Very good. And you play a little acoustic guitar and do some singing?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Now the album was recorded down in Littleton.
Yeah,
which seems to be where all great things come from these days.
Yeah, that's because Ben Edwards is there, and he's like the wizard of making good alternative and folk music.
Yep.
Like, so he's done a lot of my favorite artists, like Nadia Reid and Aldous Harding and Marlon Williams. And so someone was like, you should go record with him. And I was like, yeah. And I sent him my stuff, and people were like, oh, like, don't be disheartened if he doesn't want to work with you. He's really picky.
Right.
And then like 2 days later, he's like, yeah, let's do something. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I was really, really excited. And yeah, I flew down and stayed there for about 25 days, and we just did the whole thing in one go. And then I went back a couple months later to do some fix-ups on it.
Right.
But yeah, it was really like an immersive kind of musical time, and it was really exciting. And he's just an incredible producer. Everything he touches is just like magical, you know.
Now you mentioned all these other artists that have recorded down there, Nadia and Aldous and Marlon and all that. And today Aldous's new album is coming out. And I was wondering, for an up-and-coming person who's releasing their first album, there is an awful lot of really talented Kiwi musicians suddenly that have sprung up in the last couple of years. Do you find that inspiring or intimidating?
No, I find it inspiring. I think if someone is doing really well, then it shows that there is a market for it. You know, for the longest time people said, oh, you know, New Zealand musicians, they don't really, like, no one listens to them, and, you know, it's not a very good market. And just in the past few years, it's been really cool because you've seen all this like folk and like alternative music just completely open up in New Zealand, and now it's like there definitely is a market for it. You can make a career out of it. It's, you know, it's like I was thinking I was gonna have to move to Texas or something, you know, like, but you know, now we can see proof that, you know, people actually want to hear from New Zealand artists and they care about it. So yeah, I find it really inspiring. I mean, I do find it a little intimidating. I'm sure Aldous' album is gonna knock me off the charts next week, but but you know, it is a really cool time to be involved in it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to hear 3 songs from you. The first one is called I'll Never Know. What can you tell me about that one?
That one, well, it's just, it's about a boy, but it's kind of about how I think like today in our sort of culture, people see each other as really replaceable. So, you know, people are always comparing, oh, you know, should I stay with that person or should I upgrade? You know what I mean? And I just felt like, for me, like, I felt like I kept dating guys and then they would just move on to someone who's more attractive, like an Instagram model or a fitness model or something. And I'm like, what the hell? Like,
exactly.
You know, so I'm just, you know, and I've been like, people have just like stopped messaging me or stopped like talking to me or whatever. And I've just never really understood like why, because like, you know, it seems to be like they don't actually get the chance to know me before they really do that. So it can only kind of be for a vain reason.
Right.
And so, you know, I wrote that song just feeling really bad about myself, but then being like, what is wrong with people? You know, like, why is it that we put so much pressure on the way that we look and the way that we seem to other people and how many followers we have and how many this and that? And, you know, it's like, why don't we just like get to know like the deepest parts of each other, you know, and like actually connect instead of being like, oh, like, what can you do for me?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
I do indeed. Okay, well, let's give it a listen and we'll come back and talk some more.
Yeah, perfect.
Could you have said it any clearer, that we'd run out of time and all the fault was mine? If I was a little prettier, would I get a reply? Those things you said I once forgave you for, I just can't forget this time. Should've known. I tell myself that I'm happy without you in my life, but God, it's hard sometimes. But could you have said it any louder through the silence you provide? The thoughts that you denied. If I was a little prettier, would I get a reply? Those things you said I once forgave you for, I just can't forget this time. This time, 'cause I'll never know what it is that makes you smile on a Sunday. I'll never know the way to your world in mine, and I'll never know what it is that makes you world and lonely. I never thought you would go, and now I tell myself I should have known. If I was a little prettier, would I get a reply? Those things you said I once forgave you for, I just can't forget this time. If I fell to my knees before you, would you keep me in your life? Because those things you said I once forgave you for, I just can't forget this time. This time, 'cause I'll never know what it is that makes you smile on a Sunday. I'll never know the way to your world and mine, and I'll never know what it is to be your one and only. I never thought you would go, and now I tell myself I should have known. I should have known. But I should have.
All right, we're back here with Sophie Mashlan. We just heard I'll Never Know. We got a couple more tunes to hear. But first, we should find out a little bit more about you since you're a new up-and-coming artist.
Yeah. Cool.
Are you from Auckland?
I am, yeah. I was born here. I did live in Canada when I was growing up, between
Whereabouts?
sort of in Vancouver. So between sort of like 1 and like 8 or 9 years old, I lived there, which is where my funny accent comes from.
I hadn't noticed actually.
Well, no, because you have one. So I always true. Like you can never really pick up on the accent if you haven't. Yeah. But yeah, I know you probably think I sound like a Kiwi. But yeah, but then when I was like 8, we moved back, and I've lived here since. So right. I definitely would consider myself like in New Zealand, like an Auckland-based girl.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what kind of music were you listening to when you were in your formative years?
Oh, I mean, like when I was really, really little, I loved classical music because I did ballet, and I started ballet when I was like 2 or 3. And so I'd go home and I'd dance to like Tchaikovsky and stuff and be like, I'm a fairy. But then when I was like, when I was in like primary school and stuff, I mainly just listened to like pop music. And then, I mean, like my dad always listened to like different stuff. Like he had all his older sort of records that he'd listen to like in the car or when he was like doing work on the cars on a Sunday or something,
right,
you know.
Right.
And then when I was like 12, I got really into like rock music and I wanted to be Avril Lavigne. And then when I was like a little older, I kind of started listening to folk and I really liked it. So it's, you know, I haven't always been like really into folk music. I mean, I liked it when I started listening to it, but I've had like a really wide kind of range of listening material over my life. So,
right.
you know,
right.
And that might be why I don't fit exactly into any sort of genre box, is because I can't pick one, you know what I mean?
What was the first concert you went to?
Oh, this is so embarrassing. It's like
believe me, I know.
I think it was Hillary Duff.
Hillary Duff, that's pretty cool.
I was like 7 maybe.
I haven't even heard that name said in years.
No, it was really good though.
Oh, good. That's excellent.
I should have just lied.
No. We can't put up with any of that. All right, well, we got that out of you, so we better move on to the next song, Let You Down. What is that one about?
Let You Down. It's kind of a similar concept to I'll Never Know, except it's kind of written from the perspective of somebody who dates in a very like reckless kind of way and, you know, takes advantage of people and, you know, doesn't really pay any mind to like the way that they're affecting the people around them and stuff. So it's not really super, like it's personal, but it's like almost like I'm trying to like understand what it's like to be in that kind of mindset, like, you know, because I'm somebody who's very like conscientious. I'm like, am I doing the right thing by everyone else? And, you know, am I being a nice person?
Right.
But, you know, I kind of wanted to know how it would feel to be someone who kind of just does stuff and says like, whatever, you know, like, and I watched a few movies and then like tried to kind of get inside the mind, and then I just kind of came up with this idea of like almost like a character that I was becoming when I wrote it. So some people are like, oh, that sounds like, oh, Sophie, like, did you really do that? And I'm like, no, like, I just talked about doing it, but I didn't do it. Like,
well, that's a relief.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, let's give it a listen, and then we'll come back.
There's only so many hours in the day. How am I supposed to do it all? There's so many faces I blur together and so many names I can't recall. And there's only one me and there's only one you, and I cannot pretend to understand this love at all. My head is in the sand, but I forget you when you're gone or when you're with somebody else. And I let myself forget you 'cause I'm lying to myself. But there's silence on the side of us and silence in the waves, and baby, you told me I was born to drown. There's insecurity in my brightest smile, those feelings that you gave, and baby, I thought that I could let you down. I thought that I could let you down. that I hear them whispering and speaking of me like I did them wrong. And there's only one me and there's only one you, and I'm holding his hand still against my better judgment, 'cause I'm desperate for this thrill. But I'll forget him when he's gone, or when he's with somebody else, and I'll let myself forget him, 'cause I'm lying to myself. But there's silence on side of us, and silence in the waves, and baby, you told me I was born to drown. There's insecurity in my brightest smile, those feelings that you gave, and baby, I thought that I could let you down. I thought that I could let you. How am I supposed to do it all?
Welcome back to the 13th floor. We've got Sophie Mashlan with us. She's got her first album out. It's A Perfect Disaster. Why the title? Is it just named after the song, or?
No, it's actually not just named after the song. It's named, I had this sort of whole idea, like when I'd sort of finished recording and was just in the process of kind of deciding what I was going to do with the album. I had this kind of concept that I wanted, which was that, you know, the album to me is really a learning experience. It wasn't ever about, you know, topping the charts or getting 1 million streams or getting signed to a big label from it. It was just about like learning how the industry works, how I could do it myself, you know? And so, you know, there was a lot of time where I was like, oh my God, like this is like the worst thing I've ever done, and, you know, feeling really awful about it. And then there were some times where I'm like, yes, this is like the best thing I've ever done. But it's kind of just, you know, it's like a lot of it has been really challenging and I've lost a lot of sleep over it, but it is something that I've made and I've created, and it feels like it's a bit of a perfect disaster on its own. So I had this whole idea and I was like, I want to have this picture where I'm falling, and I want it to be like all like moody, and I want to call it Perfect Disaster. And then I was like, okay, let's do it.
Because that was kind of what I was going to ask you next, was now that you're kind of become part of the music industry and you're in that thing, is it like what you thought it would be like?
I don't know. I really hesitate to be like, oh, I'm in the music industry. Because I feel like if you're saying that, then you're kind of just like, you know, like either you have to be like really in the music industry, like you have to be well known, or you have to be like important in some kind of like way, shape, or form. And I'm like neither of those. Like I'm relatively unknown, and I don't work for Sony, so, you know, like I'm not really in the industry. But I feel like.
But you've been doing industry stuff.
But I've been doing industry stuff, yeah. But I feel, I mean, like it's not like it's not what I thought it would be in terms of like, you know, I like when I was like, everyone has like I have like a constantly shifting perspective of what it means to be like successful, or what I think the work involved is going to be like. You know, when I was 10, I thought I'm just going to be like Taylor Swift, and I'm going to get picked up when I'm 14 and turn into a superstar, you know. And then when I was 15, I was like, I'm going to post all these videos to YouTube and get discovered there. And then I was like 17, and I'm like, oh, damn it, that's not going to happen. Like, so I was like, I got to start touring, I got to start writing, I got to start recording. And so I've just been doing all this, and it's just, you know, it's because I love it and because, you know, I want to make a career out of it. But you know, it's also kind of like everyone is so like full of their own hype in this business, you know. So like you'll go see someone's Facebook page and you'll be like, oh my God, they've got so much going on and I'm doing nothing with my life. And literally it's like one thing that happened once and they've completely escalated it to like a new level. And you know, people probably look at mine and think, oh my God, this happened for her. And I'm like, oh, that barely happened for me, you know, like, but you know, everyone is really like trying to, like everyone's really pushing themselves up, and there's a lot of like social climbing, like people will message you and ask you for favors and you've never met them, you know, like, so, you know, it's kind of scary because I'm like a very honest person and I'm like, I'm gonna get eaten alive, like literally.
Hopefully you'll be fine. We'll see how it goes. We'll check back with you in about a year and see if you're still with us. I'm sure you will be. So you're going out on the road a little bit, playing some shows?
Yeah, I'm doing a tour
with these guys?
With these guys, only for a couple of the shows. So unfortunately, due to some previous issues with tour scheduling and there was we're only able to do 3 of the sort of shows as a band. So the Auckland, the live radio stuff, which is like today, and then the Hamilton show as a band, and then the rest of them I'm doing solo. Which was a little bit stressful because it happened kind of last minute, you know.
But I've seen you solo, and it's a
thank
good thing, so not to be worried.
I hope that people still like it as much, you know. I'd hope so. But so I've got about 10 shows over the next month.
Cool.
I'm really excited.
And you got one more song to sing?
I do, yeah.
The title track, Perfect Disaster. Anything to say about that before we go?
I think people can figure that one out for themselves.
All right. Well, we'll put it on them then. All right. Well, thanks for coming down here and talking to us. It's been fantastic, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
I've lost sight of all that I gave away. I am a raven singing to my own grave, lost in insecurity. I squandered my days in this perfect disaster that I create. I lose track of all the things that I break, but my own heart I remember to this day. Sinking in regrets that keep me awake, and this perfect disaster that I can't save. But I will hold on to this pride, and I will hold my head up high. I will falter, but I will learn to love this perfect disaster that I've become. I'm a stranger to the happiness that I find. Nothing can save me from ghosts when they are mine. Clutching straws, I call out one last time to this perfect disaster that I define. But disaster that I've become. But I will hold on to this pride, and I will hold my head up high. I will falter, but I will learn to love this perfect disaster that I've become. But I will hold on to this pride, and I will hold my head up high, and I will hold on to this pride. I will hold my head up. I will hold on to this, hold on to this, hold on to. I will falter, but I will learn to love this perfect disaster that I've become.